Good morning, dear learners. How are you doing today? I hope you are all well and doing fine. Welcome to another session of our Facebook Live. And today, I will be your live streaming teacher. My name is Linear Concepcion. But before we start our session for today, I would like to give you simple reminders as we go about our virtual class this morning. First is, I want you to prepare your module, pen and paper. Why pen and paper? Pen and paper just in case you need to write down notes. Second, observe courtesy and respect while the Facebook live streaming is going on. Third, please key in your name, your section, and the school where you come from for your attendance down in the comment section below. And lastly, raise your questions if there are any during our question and answer portion later after the discussion. This morning, we will be focusing on linear and nonlinear text from the module crafted by Sir Jericho D. Ignacio, a Master Teacher 1 of Dalandanan National High School. Our most essential learning competency for today is the composed text, which include multimodal elements. Also, we will be zeroing in the following specific objectives. First, transcode information from linear to nonlinear text and vice versa. Second, explain illustrations from linear to nonlinear text and vice versa. Third, present information using tables, graphs, and maps. I would also like to point out that this lesson will be divided into 2 sessions. Thus, the specific objectives will be expected to be attained once we have completed the rest of the sessions by next week. So, are you ready, young Valenzolanos, for today's discussion? Let us first define what information is. Well, according to Oxford dictionaries, these are facts provided or learned about something or someone. It is also conveyed or represented by a particular arrangement or sequence of things. Thus, information can be organized, understood, and interpreted using linear and nonlinear ways. So, what are linear and nonlinear texts? Well, in today's discussion, we will be focusing first on linear text. You will learn how to identify a linear text if you see one. And in addition, you will also learn to name some examples of linear texts. Linear text is the most common type of text. Texts under this category need to be read from the beginning to the end. That is why we call this reading path as sequential reading path. Now, if you understand what sequential reading path is, please click the heart emoji. That's great. With that, we shall proceed with the next part of our discussion. Now, let us talk about the key points in identifying linear text. First thing that you need to understand is that a linear text is sequential. Readers can make sense of the text by reading sequentially, meaning from beginning to the end. Second, in linear text, the author decides the order of the text, and as a reader, you are compelled to read in the manner the author writes his or her ideas. Lastly, linear texts are generally text printed on paper. Now, let me give you some examples. Linear text can be in the form of a novel, a poem, a short story, or an educational text. Do you know even letters are linear texts too? Now, since we are aware of the examples of linear texts, let's try to identify the following linear texts. Choose from the following, whether novel, poem, short story, or speech. You will be given 5 seconds to key in your answer. Shall we start? Okay. This first example is delivered on November 19, 1863, by the former U.S. President Abraham Lincoln during the American Civil War at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. What type of linear text is shown on your screen? 5 seconds to key in your answer. Time's up. The answer is correct. The answer is speech. Good job. This next example is entitled The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. It was written in 1915 in England, and it is the world's most well-known work of Mr. Frost. What type of linear text is shown on your screen? 5 seconds to key in your answer. Alright, time's up. The answer is poem. You are all impressive. I remember very well this poem back when I was in 3rd year high school. I will never forget this poem because of my dear English teacher. This third example is written by Margaret Mitchell, an American novelist and journalist. It is entitled Gone with the Wind. What type of linear text is shown on your screen? 5 seconds to key in your answer. Alright, time's up. The answer is correct. The answer is novel. Just a quick trivia. Did you know that Margaret Mitchell wrote and published only one novel during her lifetime? And that is the American Civil War era novel Gone with the Wind, for which she won the National Book Award for Most Distinguished Novel of 1936 and the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1937. Isn't that amazing? Now, this last example is from Korea. The title is The Vanity of the Rat. What type of linear text is shown on your screen? 5 seconds to key in your answer. Alright, time's up. The answer is short story. This short story is a Korean fable which reveals a Korean custom regarding arranged marriages. There you have it. I'm really impressed with your responses. Let's have some more examples of linear text, shall we? Which of the following is not an example of a linear text? Letter A. A news article about the conflict in Myanmar. Letter B. A rap song entitled Panalo, written by Easy Mill. Letter C. A house painting flowchart. Or letter D. President Duterte's biography. 5 seconds to key in the letter of your answer. Time's up. The answer is letter C. A house painting flowchart. Great job. A painting flowchart is represented with arrows and boxes showing the process of how house painting is done. Which of the following is not an example of a linear text? A. A persuasive essay on why people should consider COVID-19 vaccine. Letter B. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Letter C. The Epic of Beowulf. Letter D. The Map of Baguio City. 5 seconds to key in the letter of your answer. Time's up. The answer is letter D. The Map of Baguio City. Excellent. A map is a diagrammatic representation of an area of land or sea, showing physical features, cities, roads, and more. Let's have some more. Which of the following is not an example of a linear text? Letter A, a graph showing COVID-19 cases for the past week. Letter B, an excerpt from the diary of Anne Frank. Letter C, the story of the prodigal son. Or letter D, a list of ingredients you need to buy. 5 seconds to key in the letter of your answer. Time's up. What's the answer? The answer is letter A, a graph showing COVID-19 cases for the past week. Well, a graph is a diagram showing the relation between variable quantities, typically of two variables, each measured along one of a pair of axes at right angles. Let's have the last one. Which of the following is not an example of a linear text? A, Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare. B, a Venn diagram of Athena and Arachne. C, the national anthem of the United Kingdom. Or letter D, prayer before meal. 5 seconds to key in the letter of your answer. Time's up. The answer is letter B, a Venn diagram of Athena and Arachne. A Venn diagram is a diagram that shows all possible logical relations between a finite collection of different sets. Great job, you all. Never thought that this lesson would be as easy as pie to you. Now, at this point, if you have questions on today's discussion, please key in your questions in the comments section below. You are given 60 seconds to type in your questions, and our teacher moderator will be very glad to gather them all. I will be back in a while to answer some of your questions. Your 60 seconds starts now. Hey there! Here are some of the questions from the comment section below. From Dalandanan National High School. Is linear text always advantageous, sir? Well, linear text or linear reading is not always advantageous. It may prove disadvantageous when you are in a hurry and need to find some information quickly. This is because reading a linear text requires reading the whole text from beginning to the end. And it may take a considerable amount of time to find the specific information that you are looking for. Another question from Wawangpulo National High School. If linear text is sequential, does it mean we have a non-sequential type of text? Well, that's a good question there. Yes, definitely. There is a non-sequential type of text. Linear text is sequential because you need to start reading from the beginning of the text down to the end. Non-sequential, on the other hand, means the readers do not have to go through the text in sequential manner in order to make sense of the text. This type of text has many reading paths. And it is the reader who decides the sequence of reading, not the author of the text. This non-sequential type of text will be discussed in our next session next week. Now for our last question, it's from Kanumay West National High School. What is sequential reading path? Well, as children, we are taught the traditional way of reading. We read from the beginning down to the end. This is what we call sequential reading path. And this is the reading path we do when we are reading linear text. This only means that the next type of text, which we will be discussing next week, falls under non-sequential reading path. As much as I want to answer all your questions regarding today's lesson, I cannot due to time constraints. But rest assured that these questions will be addressed by your subject teachers tomorrow during your follow-up discussion. Now, for your additional worksheets and activities, please refer to pages 28 to 32 of your module. That ends our discussion for today. I hope you have learned new things today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week for our next session. With that being said, let me remind you of DepEd Valenzuela's battle cry. Ano man ang sitwasyon, tuloy ang edukasyon. This has been Sir Rainier saying, stay safe, stay home, and study well. Thank you, and have a great day ahead.